I'm not sure what it's like in Washington, D.C., but perhaps we can find out right now from Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer, who joins us on the line. Congressman, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Thomas. It's blue skies and smooth sailing here in Washington, right?
Isn't it always smooth sailing in Washington? I mean, there's never a hiccup or a bump in the road, is there?
If you believe that, Tom, I've got a bridge to sell you.
Well, it's good to talk to you. I know we exchanged messages the other day about hockey. Did you watch the game, the AA game on Saturday night? Andover and Maple Grove?
I tried. But people should know, Tom, that I got home from my work, and it was I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday, but I was doing what most Minnesotans who grow up with hockey is one of their religious experiences. I had to watch the state high school hockey tournament, and as you know, I don't usually do this to you, but I sat down with my bride and I turned on the game, and it was like, Jackie, where's the voice that I expect to hear on the darn games? And so I had to text Tom Hauser, which I never do, and just said, "Where are you?" It's not the same without you there, but you ended up working.
It just happened to be a game I wasn't working, but yeah, I was.
Right.
I worked a few of the games, and it's always fun. It's always. I know you're a huge hockey fan, and you have been forever. But it was just a great tournament, and again, it is part of the fabric of. And do you represent? Is Andover in your district? Yeah,
I do. I represent Andover and Maple Grove. We can see it from the border of our district. That happens to be in Dean Phillips' district. But the Andover Huskies, you got to give them a lot of credit, Tom. I mean, that Hill Murray team was loaded, and they were really good. And Andover not only takes out the favorite in the tournament, but then comes right back the next night against a very, very strong Maple Grove team. And pulls it off. It's one of those great storybook finishes. I think everybody who participated in the sectional playoffs in the state tournament this year, as we get back to something more normal, Tom, I think it was really a great experience, not just for those kids, but for all of us that were paying attention.
Yeah, and you had the Andover girls who also won a state title, just phenomenal. And then the Andover boys, the number 5 against number 3. There was so much parity in that tournament. It wasn't the number 1 seed against number 2. It was number 5 against number 3, and number 5 won. And that's what it's all about. You like there to be some unpredictability.
Well, you do, but let's not leave out the Class A tournament, because I've got to tell you, the level of skill and compete at the Class A level rivaled the AA. War Road and Hermantown, what a great game that was. And, you got a lot of those kids who are going to go on and play a few more years, whether it's in juniors or at the college level. It's going to be fun to watch them advance.
Yeah, and
it's once again a testament to Minnesota.
And I did work the Class A championship game, and you're right. 20 years ago, there may have been a difference, or 15 years ago, between A and AA, or more of a pronounced difference. Not so much now. I mean, you've got guys from Class A that go on to the NHL frequently, and so it is fun to watch. Well, we should probably talk a little bit of politics, since that's primarily what you and I both do these days. Let's talk about President Zelensky. He's going to address Congress tomorrow in kind of the way we do things now, virtually. What are you expecting to hear, and what role can Congress play in this situation in Ukraine?
I expect President Zelensky, who, by the way, may just be our Winston Churchill of the 21st century, the way we see him taking a leadership role. And this world, Tom, in my humble opinion, lacks leadership in many of these highest posts, people who inspire others to want to achieve and do better for themselves and their family. President Zelensky, against all odds, is doing that with the Ukrainian people, and quite frankly, he's rallying people around the world where the United States and our Western allies have been a little reluctant to deal with the tragedy that is Vladimir Putin. But that part aside, what I expect to hear tomorrow, he's going to be critical of the West. He's going to talk about, I expect, the tragedy that is occurring in Ukraine. We've got Victoria Spartz. She's a first-term member, Republican member from the state of Indiana. Victoria is from Ukraine, and she stood before our conference 2 weeks ago, holding back tears, telling us a story about her 95-year-old grandmother who still lives in northern Ukraine, who lived through Stalin, by the way, Tom. And she was talking about the atrocities. She made it very clear they are killing women and children. This is indiscriminate. This is not a war. This is a crime that is being committed in Crimea. And I think that's the message that you're going to hear from President Zelensky tomorrow. And he's going to encourage people to aid the Ukrainians. And what can Congress do? Well, typically Congress doesn't weigh into these things the way you've seen in the past couple of weeks. But letters trying to tell the administration where we as a collective Congress are at, bipartisan letters, by the way, talking about making sure the equipment gets there, that we do what we can to hold this Russian aggression in check and to protect the Ukrainian people.
And we should point out that there are 17,000 Ukrainians living in the state of Minnesota. We heard from some of them at the state capitol last week, and like you said, very tearful, talking about friends and relatives in Mariupol and other places in Ukraine that they weren't even able to ascertain whether their friends and relatives were dead or alive.
Right. Tom, it's the one phrase that I hear more than any other, and I was traveling the district Friday, Saturday at political conventions, is how can this be happening in the 21st century? I think we've become very comfortable where we're at, and we've had some challenges over the last year and a half. But we forget that you literally are days, if not hours away from total disruption of the world balance as we know it. And Vladimir Putin seems to be suffering from some major mental health issues. He withdrew during as I understand it, during the pandemic. He's a germaphobe. He was already isolated, and he isolated himself even more. And guess what? The actions that he is taking right now seem to be one of a crazed dictator that's bent on destroying anything in his way. So it's going to be interesting. The administration talks about unifying. That's great. But I'm going to tell you, Tom, the Ukrainians and our leadership here in the House were asking to supply defensive weapons back in October. This administration said in October, in November, in December, in January, that supplying equipment that the Ukrainians could use to defend themselves could be seen as provocative, which, by the way, is the same argument they're making right now is this crazed leader in Russia is driving his forces across Ukraine, causing unspeakable damage and death. At some point, it's not about deploying American soldiers. They're not asking for that, but it's making sure that President Zelensky and these brave Ukrainians have the ability to defend themselves against this criminal invasion.
Well, we'll all be anxious to see what he has to say tomorrow, and I know you'll be there. You'll hear directly what he has to say. And Congressman Tom Emmer, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning on WCCO Morning News.
Thank you, Tom. Enjoy that 60-degree weather.
Absolutely. We will. Congressman Tom Emmer, thanks for joining us. This is Tom Hauser on the WCCO Morning News, filling in for Vanita.